we intend to have adverse effects, and you see all those faces in society. That's the thing for my child. I mean, you can watch Curious George, as I said, Exploradora. That's the thing that they want that child to grow up being a part of, not just seeing, but being a part of. And if that didn't cause enough repulse to you yet, on top of that, it comes those criminals that most likely started it, but early on. And you notice one extra thing, for perspective, right? You see about many things in context. More than a few times I mentioned here that while there were always evidence against those criminals back home, and they were directly responsible for the death of my grandmother, and was this thing happening that caused my father to not receive the treatment that he had needed in time, because that's what happens to undesirables. Just watch any person being discriminated, disfranchised, especially in history, and or groups in general. And again, in this case, it was my family, not just me. As you go too far, if you don't see someone suffering the consequences of this without being completely innocent. I'm not just saying that a cat that behind his eyes hides a killer, because it does. She's a cat. She kills, but not people. As I was saying, by the way, my fluctuation things. What is this, baby? What is this, baby? What the fuck is this wrong? Jesus Christ! I don't have a fucking clue what this is supposed to be. Somebody threw that on me? Yeah, it has to go there, because if I throw that, they're gonna pick it up again. Besides, it's organic anyway, it's undissolved. What the fuck that is? Where'd you find that? It was on my food? Jesus. What the fuck is wrong with these people? Which, by the way, yeah, we may be thinking about that, about far more pressing things. But let's finish. As I was saying that, about the things, not distraction. But for by the way, he's just being picky, because he thinks he went out of his way to find that. No, he has food here. And he likes his food. That's the one that he likes. It's lucky something one of them threw from that, and he just picked it. So we're talking about disfranchisement and demonizations, right? That was good. Thank you. As for sorry, they're not actually talking to me. I just realized that they had thrown that on me. As if throwing trash like this is clearly uneatable passes me as a degrading way to me, I imagine. Is that guarantee? And this, no, absolutely not. That's as far away from it gets compared to the things you get to see every day. Even yesterday in the mall, it's mostly silent or normal things. And just as I start picking up my food, that's why I say you the actual examples, because you assume that I've been through all of this and my opinion wouldn't be biased. It would be crazy. Like, of course I'm biased. I'm going through this and not be able to express things, even if I think I'm not, and I try not to be. I will be expressing things in a biased way. So the solution is, I tell you the facts. You arrive to the conclusions. The facts are, yesterday, I was picking up food for them, or the food. Some guy offered it to me, notably. Someone went there, tapped me in the back, I was closing my finish to leave, and said, hey, do you want some food? First I said no, but then I was in the fence, and I was like, actually, I will. This is important. Because later I said no at first, and then I actually asked, but he had offered it, and I said, no, actually, I'm going to accept that, and that's relevant. Because it's a big difference if I'm asking for things, or if people offer things to me for no reason. In this case, again, I was there, it was my back, I even have eaten dinner, but that was good, because that's what they ate yesterday, which saved a full meal. First off, it's good for them to have meat every now and then, and you can imagine they are this active because of that, at least. And yes, this is active for them. At least more than it usually is, at least for her. Normally should be asleep. And I thought that was a good opportunity. And everything in the room was silent. Not on the table that they offered me, but talk about, again, janitors and other employees in particular. All of a sudden, as I'm trying to pick up the food by the same place, you can hear that in the audio record. It's recording audio. It's not in video, but he's recording audio. And the general jump up volume in specific and laughter as the entire time I'm moving the things. And I don't get noticed. I don't look up. I just keep moving the things, acting as if that's normal, even though it's clearly not. And you can listen to that and decide for yourself if you think that that's normal or not. But for what it's worth, one by one, and there was a lot. I thought that the yellow thing that you saw me picking up there was fish sticks, like the thing that that confuses Kanye West considerably. But no, I don't think it is. I think it's just some type of potato or something like that, which is sad because they love fish sticks. No, I'm not making the joke, but you can make the joke yourself. Besides, I phrased it in a weird way. Why fish stick? I'm saying that incorrectly. You need to do that better. Anyway, my cat's doing her thing, and come on, guys, don't need to be gross like that. Go about your business. Sorry. I need to get my brain to function and cope so I don't get too overexcited, because if I do that, then I'm going to flow excitement drugs and then I blow out and I become too agitated. You see that happening all the time. You see them treating this whole thing as if it is treating me as if, actually I want you to say that close to the phone as well, treating me as if a sort of human toy thing that you can actually just go talk to in there and get specific reactions and so on and so forth. Hoping that you can actually do that and just go away. Forgetting that they're not the first war criminals to do this. Matter of fact, treating human beings as experiments, as test subjects, as sources of this is something that just about every war criminal ends up being accused of. It's a specific thing too. For most of those things are so irrelevant. If you look at a list of what war crimes or crimes against humanity, if you're in the formal terminology, since this is clearly not a normal open war, most of those things are very technical, right? They're very specific. They're like, you're allowed to move people from place to B, and you use disfranchisement as a way to get people to abandon their culture and adopt to other culture, or to change who they are, to how they see themselves, or to exterminate people. And you notice how many of those are just so end up being so specific of them abusing people to the level of treating them either like toys or entertainment. And this is very common for just about all the war crimes. Yeah, you have Nazis being told to just bash babies against the wall for fun and laugh about the sight. Or you have, Japanese in their camps doing, the experiments, You have and just over the whole tone of sadism and actual notion of fun being involved with the war crimes. It's so common amongst all of that, especially because of how irrelevant it often is. You can see the advantages of being acculturating people, right? Or cultural genocide, or actual genocide, or other things. You can just see if you don't have a heart, you can understand why you can attain tangible political or geopolitical or social goals with that, even if morally. But given how pointless most of those things are, they just involve an individual in having a good time while enjoying someone else's suffering. It's just curious to me how just about so many war crimes, some of which have nothing to do with this in general, seem to have the element present one way or another. Because that's usually how they hang. When you show pictures about Nazis, you're not going to talk about technically forced relocations. You're going to show atrocities in death camps, right? Because, again, for the least relevant thing, the thing that's going to have the largest negative impact and most pointless, I think, least relevant. Anyway, for what it's worth. And also the most harmful for people in general, tends to leave a bigger scar, usually. Although to say harmful is relative. Again, to relocate an entire population and let them starve to death. better. It just looks a bit cleaner. Because technically, starving to death doesn't look as bad as a concentration camp, even though the crime itself. Again, the point is, through all of this, can I just showcase something else, which is kind of the reason why I'm saying most of those other things close to here. Why are you stuck in this direction? Because again, we don't trust one source recording anymore. One source recording only anymore. Not anymore. Father thing, so just finish the father thing, yeah. So is that everything predictable, so it's not true, died. Our home wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was just pretty bad. It was probably hell. But I remember saying that by the time when those things were already happening already. So I don't know if we're just feeling that because that's what it's really happening. I was becoming an adult. I was 18. That's what anybody needs to be. No. And most importantly, if they had some minor mental health issues, they will normalize it by then, as is normal. Most mental health issues do normalize at the end of puberty. When you become an adult, and usually around the time by 21, you have a more stable thing. It's not like you have a bunch of things tied up to the age of 21 for some reason, right? No, that's not the reason, but I'm saying that the reasons are common for both. Speculate at least. And, you know, and just being removed, honestly, at this point, just blocking a lot of the wind, so there's nothing passing through, and there's no sun anymore. This is why I was reluctant to put this on. The sensation is all down. Okay? All down. At least there's some breeze coming in. If you're gonna feel better or worse. The long run was for sure. But I have to finish this, so that's what I'm trying to see. That's what you see me doing. I'm kind of eating anything yet, by the way. This is too important. So, okay. Tonight I go to the police station. In the way there, I kept saying, hey, look, I'm going to report that. I'm not going to report about the cat, because maybe they're going to give it back and they realize the problems. So I don't want to report, because the report comes later. My idea being, if they give the cat back, we're going to report that, and it goes forward. Because if not, the report stays, and it is reported. It's just not reported to the police in the paper. It's reported in video, on the spot, on that day. The video is available to you. Plus the witnesses. You know that they listen to it, because I mentioned a few things. One name of fato was this manager specifically mentioned something in the lines of, and what does the victim have to say about that? In a very mocking tone. Now, of course, they're not looking at me or referencing me directly, because of course it would be, but very explicit. That one of the fat guys that was there, one of the cashiers, I mentioned that right in the video. All that's documented, individuals by face, everything. The next day, you have a security guard. Oh, on that day, you have a security guard asking, where was the catch? And then acting very surprised. You can see in the video how surprised he was when I said, she's at home. Because I'm not going to tell that to him. And then he looked surprised. So it's one or two options. And both of them are bad. Either he looks surprised because I cannot come up with anything. You ask about a cat that guy brought before, which is normal. His answer is, it's a home, and you don't see it anywhere. Why would you be fucking surprised? What is the answer you were expecting? So, that's the one. Or other one is that he was so set in his mind to look surprised, and he was so sad that my answer would be, she disappeared, I don't know where she is, that when she got there, his brain just entered in tilt, and he had already the surprise expression there, and he couldn't change anything else. And he realized the consequences of it, because that's the direct implication indeed. So, again, you choose which one. I was eyewitness to him being surprised by the answer that she's at home. The rest is speculation, but to be fair, why would you speculate? Of the thing, though, I was surprised. So much so that he was actually speechless after. Weird thing. At best, I think he was asking to repeat what I said, which could be even another connotation, which is to diminish the crime as a whole. But again, I will never answer that with a specific answer because with tell that what happened, because then I was polluting the entire pool with a bunch of other things besides. She mattered much more to me than to say that. Missing the point though. And this is what they actually accomplished. It's a huge deal of sympathy for me, who never took a child to a park. Not even a park. I mentioned a park before several times, in fact. It should be like at home. This is like going with your child in your backyard for half an hour, in your garden, in your front yard, in fact. And your child is no longer around, and you notice that she's not around, which I noticed in the first minute or two, and you're like, okay, she's in the back. She went to the backyard, pick up something, she went to the house, pick up something, because it's your house. I'm not concerned about someone snatching her away. Just realize that someone went to your house, to her house. Not like mine, but it was her. And snatch her away. It was a place that I felt safe. In my logic, in my mind, to feel safe is, this is her home. This is where I found her. This is where she was there with Mama Cat. I mentioned the story. She was in a truck tire in front. That's why she's always afraid of truck tires. And Mama Cat was calling for her, but she was inside there. She loved cars. She loved to be inside cars. That's that. Like this one. And that was terrifying to me, right? It's another reason why taking her away was a problem. They could have done a bunch of things. They could have used that to say that I was trying to steal a car, which is still bad enough, but compared to the other things, they do not that much. But instead, that cruelty wouldn't allow it. The sadism wouldn't allow it, because this indeed hurts me much more. So it's not just about accusing even me of falsely things. And if you understand that being able to accuse me of trying to rob a car because I'm looking underneath it, which is indeed suspicious, it's a big deal. It's why I was always very terrified of she getting even close to car. Because she just slip inside and she stay there. And she take that as a game, because fucking cats, right? And I'm a dog guy, in case you failed to notice that. So you know that any cat owner will know that this is a very cat-like thing to do. And she was like hiding away and trying to see if I could find her. And she was, all of a sudden, if I stay nearby, it'd be like this little paw just trying to poke at something. Like, you know, the other way the cats do it. From like underneath around the wheel or behind the wheel. And you're like, son of a bitch, get out. And then she just go back inside and stay close to the engine. And that's terrified for two reasons. Terrified for A, I knew the obvious points, that she couldn't get too close to pick her up. And B, I knew that the guy could show up and try to turn on the engine, could hurt her, or something like this. I don't know what she was. She could be close to the fan. She could be a bunch of places underneath a car that's dangerous for cats. And she was very small. So I was terrified, and I didn't want to get into that. And they could have used that in so many ways, based on their lines of thought to shape reality to their will. But instead, they tried to snatch her away. So in her home, this would be equivalent to a living child in a home, right? And you relax, because if this was anywhere else, I would never have not looked for her at that time. Anywhere else, on the spot, I would have tried to see what happened to her. But because it was here, and my logic, I literally said, this is her home. More even so than me, she has been longer here than she has been with me. So from her perspective, this place is more familiar than I am. So the logic was, she's good. And for 20 minutes, no longer than 20 minutes, from 10:20 something to less than 10:45, because guess what? He had to leave. Yes, on that day, even though the normally only leaves around 11 something, almost 12, now it's 10:10, almost the same time, you know. But only leaves usually around 11, late 11 to noon. And that day, at 10 something, and I was searching everywhere. I was going inside, I was leaving. The idea that was that they hoped they were just going to forget about her and leave. What kind of individual does that? I just want to pull this down for a second. Not just him, I'm talking them in general, whoever had the master plan. What kind of individuals, what would they have done against me to imagine that a guy like me, and you see how I am in general, with them and with things in general, that I was just going to forget about it. Forget about it. Like, how many things do you think that they must have been confident to being able to throw on me and impact those things to get a guy like me to just forget that she existed and just go on with my life? And I get to see a little bit of me at this point, in small part thanks to them, but so I just propose to you the sheer amount of drugs they were expecting from me or whatever other crime they expect to do against me to get this to go away. Because one thing you know is that Sam Constantine wouldn't. One kind of final thing is it's so well with everybody. Everybody in the mall knew about this. And the best proof of that is later, recently, towards the end of the year, we went to the mall and we found some videos on Hackboy, the other phone. And they were of her, right? Because I didn't have this phone yet. This phone was purchased in August, I think, 2025, almost a year after then I left. If not a year, even more. And there was laughter. There was joy. There wasn't a single feeling of concern. And she tried to say that cat that was there with me didn't exist. And all of a sudden you see these videos of she being cute and, herself. That's terrifying. All your light is just laid bare right there. And their reaction was joy. Of seeing that she mattered to me and that they took her from me and that would hurt. Those are the faces in the mall. They're not to do with here, by the way. Not to do with him, not to do with this place. This all happened in the mall. So interaction of me finding the videos and playing that for me. And you see the reactions that many of those criminals, you know what it was? The same place. I could say the geolocation, but instead of just say the same place of the video of yesterday. The video demonstrating the experience of this crime, when you see several criminals posing for you and passing in front of you, and like to gloat about that. That's the same place when you got to see the video of my cat, and they were happy because they have caused hurt to me. And if this is my cat and you see the way that she is now, which is not the worst, she's been up before. I said she's big. You see what she did. We see what they did. And that's what they're gloating about. But as they said, on that day, 20 minutes. Imagine yourself fleeing again your front yard. Even a neighbor's front yard, if you will. Just because you bypass the fact this is not my property. But it's easy to bypass. In the neighbor's front yard. It's still safe. It's right next to your house. And it's a place your child kind of grew up in, going every day. So it's more familiar with that. Let's say their neighbor had a kid, and your child is playing with the kid all the time. So you spend more time on that than in your house, let's say. Because they also go to school, obviously, right? Because you're not one of those parents that are doing that. So, at the end of the day, of his time awake, he spends more time there than he spends in his own house. So it's more his house than my point, right? And then you go there and you're sitting in the front lawn and you're eating something, with your neighbor's permission, obviously. And all of a sudden you look, and your cat's nowhere to be found. Your child's nowhere to be found. And then you look in the back, and then you look in the front. Then you start screaming at him, doing everything you know that would attract him. In this case, the cat, so making noises. I mean, a child, you wouldn't pick up some food and put it in there, but you get the point. And try to call someone. In this case, I call that. The actual equivalent to be if the neighbor just turned to you, looked at you straight in the face and said, "She's in a better place now." And you can imagine how your reaction to that would be, right? At the spot, knowing the things you know before, going the hole, you grew up more there than here. I mean, in general. But because it's so fucked up and weird, I prefer to just stick to the more normal ones, which is, you just ask everyone, and nobody, no place comes to a positive answer. And you start that fear to creep into someone that did something, because you know there's a lot of bad people around. They're just, then imagine they will target the innocent animals instead of you, of all things. Not in this case, then, you know what I mean. But again, that detaches a little bit more. So let's just take on the main branch of 20 minutes. You look away, and that. And note that this was not in the middle of the street. It's not a strange place. he came in the back. Likely, I thought he came down from this door, and there was something happening here before. And there was this guy talking to this other weird guy. That was just like a vulture looking around, going to the corner there, to the corner there, to the corner here, to inside, always looking at us. And literally said the words like, "This is a code." You can see that in the video. All the entire day is saved. Some from the lines. So now there's 4 of them now, or something like that. And I said, yeah, but only this one is mine. And I was saying that not just trying to argue something to, I was taking him to leave, saying that I was cat breeding or something like that. And this can be used later to prove that they're listening to this, which showcases how cool they are in general, not just them here. You know what I mean? Because here's what I prove in much better ways. Talking about this in the mall because the sheer shock value is about sheer numbers, right? Individuals who clearly didn't have tough lives. They dressed well, they act normal like everybody else, middle class, high middle class for some of them, look pretty, pretty clothes, and this is what they do in the free time. Cool. When they're not telling small children to do the same. Forget about that one. So, again, I'm sweating. I'm very uncomfortable. I would like to take off my shirt, but I don't want to take off my shirt because I know if I do that, it's going to show up in a minute. It's not like now, I'm not doing anything wrong. If I'm without a shirt, it'll be at least a little bit weird. I don't want that situation. So, that's it. I sure hadn't had breakfast, by the way. I think I'm going to eat now. And I had to come back the next day, when they kidnapped the mom cat's baby. And they're not my cats. I saw them twice, 2 days only. One day had been on the previous day, as I said, the 15th to the 16th, and another time on the 14th at night. That was it. For 2 days only, I've seen them. And only one of them, I think, interacted with them actively was on the 15th. And then on the next day, they all disappeared except for her. Not in the morning, though. The morning they were there. They were fine and left. They even left a bunch of cardboard there for them. And come back at night. Go on my cat shows up and she cries for them. And she cries for them. Then she's still wanting food from me. And I'm like, okay, but where are they? As you see me do. And then she eventually stops eating and she realizes they're not showing up, and then she cries again. And then I can see all that are being full again. Of she realizing that something must have happened, and she go ask. First thing she does is jump over the fence to that place, because she only has some type of nest or sort of that. First thing. And then noise, crying for them. Yeah, I am night from the 16th to the 17th. Next day, I'm coming from that still, and I walked from this place over there on the highway. It was a Monday, I think. No, I think it was a weekday. I don't know. It's in the file. It was the 17th of December, 2025. Walk over there, and to eat something because I didn't want to deal with him. Didn't want to deal with any crap like here. I just wanted to investigate. Just wanted to deal with eat my food. And they're throwing a lot of drugs in here. And I wanted to document everything, make sure that everything was properly backed up, so that we no escape from that, from what they did. And as I get there was the time when you see the interactions with fosters. The ones who are running away from me, and then you see a bunch of police cars acting weird around, potentially as a harassment tactic. Never talked to me, but potentially that's what I said. Then there's after pass of agonizing nights which are crying all the time and missing me. Then they give them back just to early February take one and then the other one that I was just him and his mom. I don't take that as if it's not the intention to do it. I would assume etymologically that he just witnessed all his brothers, all his siblings being snatched away. And probably it was not something easy because unlike the other ones, unlike I was looking for them, in this case she wasn't. So it's very likely they did it for her to see in front of them. Right? Because every time I asked, she looked sad because she wouldn't look for them. Why? She knew. Before she didn't. So they did that for her to see. And for him to see. And now they're struggling, potentially, to do it again, or they're concerned about you, or the other one, and the fact that they're dragging everybody here, in the mall, and everywhere else, into being passionately hated. And I think the videos who try to preach about me being passionately hated, they should see what happens. People, because if you hurt animals in particular like that, you get a lot of strong emotions from people who don't let go. So again, I think individuals who think that they're the ones preying on anyone, to be fair, they are preying on me only and on them, but who think that they are beyond touch, they're the apex predators, and nobody is actually ever come after them. You would imagine that very easily know the feeling of what they are doing to me, and that there'll be people having that type of feelings, except that unlike them, those people would be going after criminals who are hurting animals on purpose with no excuse because they find it amusingly funny. So, yeah, they're dealing with the good guys. And anyone who ever had a picture of Essen or Dresden before and after the war, you see that good guys have teeth too. And I'm not preaching that you should do that type of thing, immoral things in general, that is for me. I'm just pointing that as a very clear way to, I suppose, a clear way to send a message. And given that, you know, those best buds being in the shit country themselves, they definitely know. Some might even remember how it was before, because they've seen it. Their own eyes. Actually, something. Feeling busting and feeling bad. Somebody's sweating as well. And I need to keep this safe, so lots of things to do. As for the rest, I mentioned most things and I closed most things. My father, victim of that, Sanchez, as they happen, directly, indirectly. I have one kind of thing approach. All those people you see here are not part of this. When I showed up in May of 2024, even by the time I stopped going to hotels, it was very much hotel restricted, right? It was about, what happens inside the hotels. I have a list of hotels, for sure. But other than that, not much else. There's a bunch of weirdos in places. You could even argue that they're going through those hotels after me. So it's not the type of thing like the average people in the streets, like people in general. And then, you can see how beneficial that is. Not a few times I mentioned this. See how beneficial that is for the criminals back home, because of them just getting a bunch of people to go along with the murder and drug release on a person. And yes, it is murder. Because it's, regardless of intention to kill, when you throw that amount of narcotics on a house with a 80-something-old woman who has problems breathing, and had been pneumonia in the previous year, that's the type of reckless disregard for human life that tends to amount to murder. You can read that in this statute. It doesn't specify that one specifically, but I would say that very easily meets the criteria. For fun. Keep that in mind. You're not doing that because you're accidentally doing something. You're doing that for amusement. Literally, to get the one boy, the male in the house, to freak out and be more aggressive towards the other ones, so you can film that and sell a lie. And I say sell in a more generic term. If that was done for money, boy, again, the amount of outrage, and again, for individuals who have been relying on outrage to dehumanize me, you would imagine that they would have quite literally seen very close hand how nasty some people can get, except they are doing that for cleansing things or some random videos. You seeing what they do from animal abuse to torture to drug use on a person, other things in close detail. You see what I do all the time, and you see what they do all the time, and you see they're doing that. And most importantly, they are doing that for you to see. So, I said to you before, for all those individuals or faces you see, they know what's happening, and they know enough to know what is right and wrong, and they choose to be there. Even if they want to argue one thing or another, it's far more on the criteria that they are saying they're trying to lie to themselves at best. Or worse, they know everything minutiae and they're just the worst human beings you know. But at best, they're lying to themselves because you can see more than enough, and they see more than you even, because they actually destroy temple evidence. As they demonstrated yesterday and the day before and there's other days, they have access to what's on the phone live. So, they know. Let's keep talking, but quite simply, they know. And with that in mind, but even with that, and even if the argument really didn't last, some criminals definitely doing it. No, that's not the best approach. Let's stick to the thing that I was saying that I was gonna say, which is back home they had already being directly responsible for the death of grandmother, tantamount to murder, not tantamount, that is murder. As for father, again, if this crime wasn't happening, he wouldn't be an undesirable, and there wouldn't be a case. Now, you live in countries that certainly had people being treated as undesirables to certain extremes, and the U.S. certainly have it. It's really that. Europe as well in their own ways that could be worse. I don't imagine I need to explain in detail why one and the other go along. So, Sigurd was mistreated, being transported during rush hour. She did chemotherapy that could be done any hour of the day for an ambulance. As he was struggling to move, Tanya herself says it. And you see the things that Tanya said that really not helpful to me. I don't even know what Tanya is today. She's saying that. In times like this, you actually almost feel like the real person is still there. The point is, if you carry it along, the feelings start to feel too surreal. I'm going to stop now because I think I'm not going to be sexually impaired enough that I'm going to be too productive. Also, really hungry, as I said, which is the drug that they throw, by the way. So, my point is, and they're already on the hook for that. What is happening here is that you saw all those new faces wanting to be a part of the same crime, which is pretty good for them, but just pointing that in perspective, because in the same way that you saw them going along with the bus company, and as you saw some of the buses go crowded every day. Imagine you go to work every day, wait 20 minutes, wait half an hour, and potentially 4 hours if the bus is too full, it doesn't have anything to stop, as you saw happening there. So you can get to work and the bus completely crowded, potentially arrive late at work, because the company paid the same price as they pay in the major cities like Rio and São Paulo couldn't be bothered to have one extra bus in the line. One extra bus would solve that. Each of the lines that is full like this, one extra bus would do the trick. It would be instead of half an hour, it would be 20 minutes, and the ones at 1 hour would be half an hour. One extra bus, right? The lines are actually quite small. No traffic virtually. And they go along with all of that every day, knowing that their children are going to school in the same conditions, and if they start working here in the city instead of elsewhere, they're going to work in the same conditions you are. And that doesn't bother them at all, so long as they see me being abused. You can see that in video. So, I say, oh, technically bothers us. It's just, this what? You cannot get the one company, the clear monopoly, to do more things, or just being broke down? Because that antitrust laws here, as much as the antitrust laws and the antitrust laws in the U.S., as a matter of fact, in this case, they didn't live up to antitrust laws, because antitrust laws are usually national for a reason. In this case, it would be about concession. They're local thing. They can argue that there's nobody else interested, in which case they'll just say, I don't know, it's fucking possible. Again, things are so fucked up in so many ways. But even then, the government can apply fines. It reserves itself because it gives exclusivity. It reserves itself a bunch of rights. It's not just open free trade. Because it's an exclusive concession, no other company can have the same lines, right? The government reserves itself all sorts of rights to fine and to demand things and to reapply contracts and to redefine about things. So they could force the company basically to do that or just abandon the whole endeavor altogether. And seeing how profitable it is, I don't think that they will be taking that option. But no measures are pushed for that. No question politicians, no anything on that. Instead, everybody's content with going through all of this, so long as they know that they'll be abused. So, same as everybody was content with being in the bus with people actively throwing drugs inside, while outside and getting inside. And not bother for that. They've released drugs on same places, fucking every day. Fuck a police car in there and see where it's coming from. It's not that complicated. Like, again, I get into person. See, this is why I say, A, I don't talk when I'm feeling impaired, and B, I don't get too emotional, because, it's just a casual thing, and I don't let it get to me too much, because I need to be functional. I have to be functional, else everything collapses. But it's just the type of thing you realize they've been releasing drugs on this bus back and forth every day in specific spots. The spots are in front of the bus terminal, in front of Max Supermarket, and the one there between the highway and Costa Silva. On the overpass here, the new overpass that they built that goes to Argentina, in front of Três Fronteiras gas station, in front of Vivaldi gas station, the one in front of Vivaldi, know the name, in front of Rafaim as well, it's the same trio there. The Vivaldi Hotel, Rafaim, Convention Center Hotel, whatever, and the gas station. In front of the gas station is what I feel it. Every time passing the bus. I think there's another spot as well, but those are more sporadic. That one is kind of sporadic a little bit, but it's almost certain. It's almost every day. And over there on the underpass, right there on the underpass down there. Sometimes here as well in front of Paradão, but guaranteed it's on the other overpass underneath the highway when the bus comes back to enter the Três. Every day. Like, I mean, again, as I said, I don't know if it's coming from outside or inside the bus, as I said before. Although these days I'm fairly confident it's coming from the outside, which is a problem because, as I said, you can just block one car there, see where it's coming from, and just, drugs is too illegal. We don't need this to be dealing with that. I mean, it's the point. So, that's it. And even if not, you at least figure out what it is. If it's not drugs, again, I don't have much experience with this. Imagine people work with those things, would you have, even if they work catching those guys. Again, as I said, we're not getting to the racks on this. I'm just showcasing how trivially simple it is. Because the geniuses do those things, again, as I say, in plain daylight, even though those things are at night, but, on the open. So casual. Any of those days, any of those months that I actively mention those things, if you have one person that will know, through smell, you know what it is, you know what the feeling is, and nothing else, right? If it's coming from the outside, and the other few is coming from inside the bus, then equally simple. You go inside the bus, and you smell it, and you feel it. So, again, this is how simple it is. And, but what is the point of me mentioning this? You can conclude that yourself. So, for what it's worth. And by the way, I mentioned references on places. I'm not necessarily saying it's coming from those places. In fact, Max Supermarket is very far away from the places when it says physically. So I'm not saying it's coming from the places. I'm just using the places as a reference. In fact, on this one, the Max Supermarket is actually more close to the underpass between the highway and Costa Silva than elsewhere. So some homeless people doing that, whatever. Yeah, I don't know on that in the wrong way. But I'm just saying, so that's drugs. Because that's the same sensation. Because even that's useful. Because if you say, there's some homeless people using whatever it is. Great. So that's the same sensation that I feel in this place, and this place, and this place. Inside the mall, and inside the buses, in other times, here, or in other places. So even that, it's still useful. Because given that I never use drugs, I don't know what they're supposed to be. But if you say that that's drugs that homeless people are using, then fantastic. You have already the substance. Congratulations. No matter what, you should know what it is and know what is happening, right? So, as I'm saying, and the conclusion is, although to be fair, that's a different sensation. I think it's different. I honestly don't know if it is different. I don't remember. If I qualify my brain as drugs, it might have been the same as well, as the ones that were in front of the police station. But it might have been different. I know that definitely this sensation of the bus is the one that I feel in many other places, including in the mall as I'm eating the first floor, and Sometimes in the restaurant as well, and in the backup place for sure. All the backup places. Okay, so if you establish that, yeah, those are narcotics or whatever they are, meth or again, as I said, the other ones, then it's the same ones different on the other on those places. Some of which pretty heavy, like the eating area, the play thing next to the eating area for the kids, which again, although to be fair, I have to note one thing. Closer to the area, I felt a bit better. When I got very close to the eating, I remember thinking something along the lines of, well, technically it might be because they want me to be there here, just so they can say that I'm too close to the kids thing. Or also might be because they just actually not going down that way. So whatever it is, seems very specific. Even when I'm sitting down the third floor, what I notice is that it is very effective, very close to me, but is exponentially reduced in effect if you get farther away. Like, that heavily implies some type of dust even, not even liquid in suspension, just dust. That so long as it doesn't get to you and doesn't get to your nose, the effects are minimal. It can be like in the room, it can be like this distance, and I'll be feeling here and not necessarily feeling much there. But for what I say in the mall, quite different situation if you're sitting down in a chair expecting to feel it, because I mentioned that next to you and that's why you're there, and you wouldn't be feeling it. Okay. If in a place like this, and you're open or something like that, or you're passing through, maybe. But as I say, so much so that that's the reference I have. Again, I cannot judge on things based on this. The reference I have is for times like this, those the prescription drugs and those other drugs. If I get up and I step to the side, I still feel it. I step to the side, I still feel it. And then it starts to stop feeling. And when I come back, it's the same thing. So it has a radius. It's just a relatively small radius. Not something you'd expect from a gas that would diffuse everywhere. That's why I always assume some type of powder or some type of liquid in suspension, but it's very narrow. And as a matter of fact, in something like this, powder is even more likely because it's very narrow. But when you talk about things like what happened during the night, as I said, my shirt and my pants get wet before, which heavily implies liquid in suspension, like they dissolve something in liquid and just spray that in the air, and it goes down with the wind. Sure means you're gonna have to use a lot of the product to get minimal effect, and that's why I presume that she's able to do those things every day, and I don't have further health issues than the ones I already have. Not that some, but again, keep in mind it's going on every day for months. So he probably have done that directly to me, I would have been killed already. So again, dosage would be too high. Although to be fair, for many of those days, the dosages, the torture days, the early torture days, like the ones that happened even before I found this place, talk about March 2025 or even February 2025, including at that place, the gas station in front of Vivaldi, for instance, because it's open at 9. That one, I definitely remember one torture day there where it felt a lot like what I imagined that those should be like. I was sweating non-stop. I was in complete agonizing pain. I couldn't breathe. I was trying to move forward, and I saw people having overdose in those videos on YouTube, not to the point of death, they were recovered, but and I saw me there for watching that. I don't know if I want to. I want to stop and see. So, as I said, now since then, torture days are more prolonged. It feels like they should release virtually the same amount of substances, but for longer time, which causes to be more pain, and less pain, but much longer pain. As I said, recently one lasted from the 5th to the 7th. Virtually constantly, unless I go to a room that they don't expect me to go to. As I said that, unless I enter a pharmacy, for instance, and then the door closes and then everything's normal again, because they didn't expect me to go there, and it stops in an instant. So, which they think is good, but much like everything else, is a hidden trap, because at the end of the day, once you realize what they're actually doing, which is not difficult, because by the time when the thing is happening, it's shooting that in the air. It just means that you know that for each second that this was going on, they could have stopped it with either press a button or by stop doing one thing, and they chose not to. And that is for the next second, and then for the next second, and then for the next second, and then for each instant after. It's not the type of thing that you did an action like, you freak out and you push a person and the person fell and she's in pain on the ground because she broke a bone and you're trying to fix what you did, but there's not much you can do. For them, it requires an active choice to hurt me on the spot for each instant you see it happening. Each instant I said to you that they're throwing drugs in the air, they continue throwing, and I'm only feeling pain because they're causing that pain on me on the spot. As I said, if you were punching someone, they'll keep doing it. In each moment, the person feels pain is because he's doing that again and again and again, and you could stop that in a moment. You choose not to. Again, when you watch those videos, and I saw so many people throw their lives away because of one mistake that they did when they were angry or not thinking straight. This is the type of thing that is not only premeditated, but it's the type of thing, as it's happening, they choose to continue doing it every single instant that is happening. They don't just start torture days and they press a button and now it's no longer unavoidable. Each moment, like yesterday, I think yesterday they tried something like that and then they stopped. And credit to that for what it's worth. But it doesn't matter. As I said before, we already established that they could stop it. Not yesterday, but way before. We sat down when they were doing right now. Not now, but earlier today here. They did throw up busted torture drugs as well and then stopped. Presumably as a threat, because again, it worked exactly like all the other threats they do. So, cool. Now you can see that they use those things as threats, which is useful. I mentioned that yesterday in the mall as well. It happened other times as well. But for what it's worth, And so, it's just me. Oh, and them. But cannot stay too close to them when they do those things. Yeah, several days when they were throwing those things on me, and I would just go away for them not to throw on them. And at several times they continued throwing on them. And I was like, I wasn't even here. They will understand, depending on I stay here, if I'm here, it goes come from there. If I go to the front of the place, the drugs actually come from the other side. It's simply, again, physics. I know that because several days when they're throwing drugs in here, if I go there, I feel good for a couple minutes, and then the goodness go away because they start throwing that, and I imagine that they have to change the location. Exactly like as it happens on the backup place, when you saw me going from one side to the other, and the place was big enough that depending on the thing, they had to relocate, and so they have the famous thumbs up, breath of fresh air. The same thumbs up you saw that criminal. Just, if you think anything about the criminal you see in the video, about this face or this serious persona, just know, you're giving me a thumbs up, and I think you can see that even in the video. But if not, I was eyewitness to it. He was giving a thumbs up, but they were showing up there at 5:09 with police officers. He literally passed while driving a bus, while driving the truck, the pickup truck, doing like this, while staring straight at me. So that is that human being. And it's a very clear way to see what it really is. Not what it's pretending to be, when clearly we know it's being filmed, but what it really is. So, again, if you bring in police officers, which, by the way, again, for 21 minutes delay, mind you. It resembles something else you may have heard here about time-sensitive things, right? They are completely unreasonable. For 21 minutes, he agreed with me. He said, you leave up to 5, and I said, can be 5:30 because 5:30 would be better for me. 5:30 is the way they say, I think, or something like that. Although I think I said it quickly. Again, they were drugging me already, but it's very clear that 5:30. Pode 5:30, porque ajuda pouco mais. And mostly because of the sun. The idea is I was there because the sun is strong, so half an hour more. And by the way, he lied. He said something about it's free something now. And there's a lie. I assumed it was true because I said, why does he lie about that? It was 4:20 something or 4:40 something by then. It was less than half an hour away, by the way, from the time when he said the first time. On the backup place, the same place that I just described. Past the highway patrol towards Santa Terezinha Pool, the first road to the left is the same path to the airport for the city, where you have those jets leaving up early. I think they're hiding something. If it's not just you and me, this is not an accusation, okay? I cannot. It's speculation. They're hiding something. check on the pipeline of those jets. There's something that is happening now, and given that drugs also happen in that, and they do also smell. I'll check on that one. Very close to Paraguay and Argentina. Do a check on those pipelines for those. Since a local airport right next to international airport, they would have a lot more oversight. So, just suggestion. No accusation. I'm not saying I don't know anything, but just a hunch based on a couple things. And either way, but Paraguay is a nightmare as far as regulations and oversight and fiscalization. This country works ish. It's not good, but so that's one of the reasons I'm saying. Just again, the thing is, is the pathway to the airport. Then you turn left in the dirt road. The one you see the school buses and other type of street vehicles pass. I didn't even know that was private. As I said, I didn't know confirmed. You saw me mention that several times at that point. The road itself, it's a road with no gate, no fence. I should have emphasized that for the cops. Two things I should have said to the cops. One, that dude just pointed a gun at me earlier there, which again, in this country, is not a big deal. Paraguay have just another day. You point a gun at a child, you have fun of it, look down the barrel. Anyone who knows anything about guns and accidents knows the issues with that. And again, people who don't have experience with guns don't fully understand the point because they think it's... Just trust me, that's the reason why you go to any place where there are guns and people are adamant about never pointing a gun at someone. Doesn't matter if it's unloaded, doesn't matter anything, just don't point your gun at someone. And again, how accidents happen. So, at the end of the day, they need to go to Alec Baldwin's case. Best examples of that. Literally. Very public example. Every guy who's related to guns was talking about exactly this. This is exactly why I tell you people not to point guns at people at any time. So, at the end of the day, moving forward, this some silly sidetrack again. I had to keep my brain functioning because it's too hungry. So should I mention that because that's relevant? Unlike what he was talking about me, which both lies and at best case scenario, that's an open area. I didn't cause any damage. If you could lie about that, I can disprove it easily. And doing nothing, like a homeless person in a place with no fence. I didn't break in. That's another important point. That's the other point that I should have mentioned. No gate, no fence, no sign. I generally didn't know that was private or not. I saw trucks and buses and other things passing by. As far as I'm concerned, that's a public street. But anyways, I suspected it was. It doesn't matter because again, there's no expectation you're not welcome because there's nothing there to even imply you're not. Unlike here, for instance, which even though technically doesn't have a gay, time comes, but it doesn't matter. Here it will be, especially because of the time permission request. And in cities it's very difficult anyways because places have fences, have gates, have walls, they have all sorts of things, right? That make that very clear. But in a place like that, it doesn't matter anyways because I say, at best, you could just leave, and I didn't oppose. I make that one I did right. I make very clear. Look, at any point that I opposed to leave, it was just a dispute over a couple minutes. That was very clear on my side of the story. It's so much so that when the cops showed up, everything minor was in a single place. It's not like everything open. I think the bag was open. I was going to close them now. I was already getting up to close them. And that was it. That's what they witnessed. And so, since the other ones that parked and makes an accusation, tough to say. Now, he's saying that he talked to me before, which is a problem, because that's a lie. But that was being disputed by me, actively. As I said, this was the first time he talked to me. And he was. The previous time he pointed a gun at me. It's different. But also, he's not the same guy, and also, it was on that day. And my argument was, and I said that in video as well, which I would show to the cops, because none about that is problematic. It's just in English, but English is a language. Just looking back. I was earlier there, and I was waiting, so if the guy shows up and says, hey, can I leave in the afternoon, because at least the sun is a bit lighter, and I even asked for a ride, right? If he wants me out, can you at least leave me a ride? Because either he looks like a piece of shit, or for either the sun or the ride, or both. or at least guide to the right, or get to stay into the sun's a bit easy, because it's a long stretch, right? For something that's completely arbitrary. Up to now, we see everybody nodding and waving and giving a thumbs up. So with that, is a further argument to assume that I was welcome. In fact, that, and the fact that they didn't dispute that until that point, is proof that I was an invitee. Legally, this is a big deal. In fact, criminally, in fact, for that. And wait for the thing to restart. It's going to be a couple of seconds.